Welcome to From Slave to Slaveholder in America. The American slave economic system was structured into the United States Constitution in 1788. It started initially with Protestant slavery, which defines the slaves to be property owned by the slaveholders and subject to the slaveholders' private laws. After the Civil War in 1865, Protestant slavery was replaced by wage slavery. The slave system as embedded in the Constitution persists to this very day. Today I will share with you how the slave system is structured, how you can identify your own status and take advantage of the economic benefits available to the slaveholders. My example of mobility from slave to slaveholder can help you climb the economic system ladder and achieve the American dream in your lifetime. The American Constitution, as ratified in 1788, was a document of the slaveholders, by the slaveholders, and for the slaveholders, who were around 10% of the population and owned most of the slaves. The white slaveholders needed the support of the white non-slaveholders to protect them from the black slaves and get elected to the seats of power. Therefore, the Constitution was structured to facilitate property ownership and homesteading and other benefits for the white non-slaveholders. Slaveholders owned the black slaves who were denied citizenship as per Protestant slavery code, which meant that their food and shelter was guaranteed for life, but they could not be set free because the state laws and constitution did not apply to them free. At the bottom of the economic system were the poor whites with no land or jobs, whose food and shelter was not guaranteed. However, the social status of the poor whites was superior to the black slaves because they were citizens and could theoretically move to other states for better opportunities. The structure of the Constitution ensured that the slaveholders would control and govern the country forever. Control of the executive, legislative, and judicial branches of government would always be in the hands of the slaveholders. The legislative branch was controlled through the Senate, which had two senators from each state, independent of the population. Judicial appointments approved by the Senate ensured control of the judicial branch. The executive branch was controlled with the election of the president by an electoral college with winner take all elections, with primaries to choose presidential candidates and other rules. Protestant slavery was included in the Constitution by denying blacks citizenship and giving slaveholders extra representation for three-fifths of every slave owned. Protestant slavery had several fatal flaws. Whites from Europe would not come to America because of economic competition from black slaves. So the northern states sold their black slaves to the South and passed whites only laws preventing the entry of blacks. There was no practical solution to getting rid of 4 million blacks, which no state wanted. This resulted in a civil war, after which Protestant slavery was removed from the Constitution in 1865 with the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. After the Civil War, the economic slave system continued in the Constitution. Only the terminology of slavery was modified. Slaveholders became the new employers, investors, and financiers. The yeomen, farmers, and professional skilled workers became the middle class, and the white wage slaves became the working class. Now the unemployed blacks became the underclass, segregated untouchables with separate bathrooms and facilities in all areas of employment and everyday life. This economic system has persisted to this very day. Wage slavery economic system is enforced by control of minimum wage laws, competition from illegal immigrants who can be exploited with threat of deportation, transfer of jobs to low wage countries, subsidies for housing, education and healthcare for the middle class and upper classes, and the tax system. In a nutshell, you can identify your economic status by answering three questions. If you are benefiting from any means tested programs such as food stamps, Section 8 housing programs, or Medicaid, then you are the underclass. If you have credit card debt, auto loans, educational loans, and are renting, you are the working class in America. Homeowners with only mortgage debt are the middle class. Accredited investors who have a net worth of over $1 million, not including their homes, can be considered the upper class, employers, investors, and financiers. It is important to understand how your class status controls your opportunities for getting living wages, housing, education, and healthcare. The underclass is not allowed to save. If the savings are more than a minimum limit, they will lose their food stamps and other benefits. The working class is burdened with payroll and sales taxes and not allowed to deduct rents, high interest payments for credit cards, auto loans, educational loans, and have to pay for the health care of the middle and upper classes even though they do not have health care themselves. Therefore, the working class lives from paycheck to paycheck with no savings. The middle class, on the other hand, elects the upper class with their votes and are provided subsidies for housing by deductions for mortgage interest, education by allowing deductions for property taxes, and subsidized health care through the employer-based group health plans. For the upper class, the tax code provides many benefits, including low capital gains taxes, depreciation deductions, and many other loopholes to reduce or delay taxes forever. Therefore, it is very important for us to understand our class status if we want to go up the class system ladder in our lifetime. In my case, I came to the United States in 1965 to do my master's in electrical engineering from the Illinois Institute of Technology in Chicago. I already had a B.Tech in electrical engineering from the Indian Institute of Technology, which is a premier engineering institution in India. But my parents had to get a $3,000 loan and pay 18% interest to finance my education in America. After graduating in 1966, I accepted a job as associate engineer with Westinghouse Research and Development Center, paying $10,000 annually. For transportation, I purchased a 1963 Dodge with a $600 loan. So I started life in America with working class status indicated by auto loans, education loans, and no savings. From day one, I decided to live frugally by sharing an apartment with a fellow engineer and save 25% of my salary every month. Within 6 months, I paid off my auto loan and started to save for the education loan payoff. Within 2 years, I saved $5,000 and gifted a tractor to my father in India. The tractor generated enough income at the farm to pay off the educational loan with interest. Next, I used my savings to pay for my brother's master's degree tuition at the University of Pittsburgh. Therefore, after 5 years, I had paid off all my debts and saved another $10,000 for a down payment for buying a house. At this point, I joined Bechtel and was sent to Brazil to work as an engineer on the Sao Paulo metro project. Overseas projects are very lucrative for the employees because you get housing and family allowances in addition to your salary, and there are tax benefits. As a result, I was able to save 50% of my remuneration for the next 7 years. At the end of my overseas assignment, I had saved enough to pay for a house, a new car, and be completely free of debt with middle class status. My father owned about half an acre of land in Calcutta, India. My brothers wanted to develop condos for sale upon this land. However, no loans for construction of condos were available from banks and other financial institutions. With my savings, I joined my brothers in the condo construction business and built and sold 50 condos during the next 10 years. By the age of 50, I became debt free and accumulated enough capital to become an employer investor in the American economic system. My journey from working class status to investor class status taught me several lessons about the American economic system. To achieve middle class status, one needs an education with professional skills so that earnings can pay for housing, transportation, education for family, healthcare, and retirement savings. Usually, you will inherit the class status of your parents. This means children born to underclass and working class parents will inherit their status. If you want to attain middle class status, then pay off your credit card, auto, and educational loans and save a down payment for buying a house before starting a family. In conclusion, the American economic system is structured as a zero-sum game. All the wealth of the nation is going to be shared by the upper and middle classes. The working class and underclass population will not be able to earn living wages or become debt free in their lifetimes and will pass on the economic status to their children.